There you are.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jackie, and I go to Alisa High, and I'm a junior. Sorry that I'm kind of in a rush because I'm getting ready to go to a game at school. But it's good to be here and see all of you guys.
Thank you. Jasleen, we were actually doing introductions. If you can introduce yourself, what grade you're and what school you go to.
Hi, my name is Jaslyn Rodriguez. I go to Gonzalez High School.
Thank you. JD, did you want to introduce yourself? You there?
Hello, yes, sorry. My name is JD Solis. I go to Alisa High School and I'm an 11th grader.
Great, thanks for being here.
And also I will have to leave early today because I have a basketball game, so.
That's fine. You can watch the recording. I'll send it out. All right. Well, thank you, students, for being here. Mr. Solis, great to have you. We're here with Pisoni Vineyards. We're here with Jasmine Lopez and Mark Pisoni, who is the farmer and owner of the farm in Gonzales. They're going to share a little bit about viticulture with us and share more about what they do. So we can go ahead and start. I guess we're starting with Mark, right?
First of all, thrilled to be here, thrilled to be sharing what I do with you guys. I absolutely love my job. And I love showing what I do and sharing what I do, especially with young people, because agriculture is not a career a lot of kids get introduced in a normal curriculum. So I want to be a big advocate for agriculture and tell you guys about how great my industry is and my job is. And it's a career that, as you're looking at career possibilities, it's one I would highly recommend you look into. Quick background on me, I grew up on our family farm. Very fortunate, our family's been farming for multiple generations. So very lucky in that. And that gave me a significant chance to get introduced to it at a young age. When I went to college at UC Davis, during college, I interned at various different agricultural companies in Salinas. And I would highly encourage you students as well, as you begin looking at careers, to intern at various companies, because it gives you great real life experience and helps you figure out what you like. I worked at TNA a year. I worked at Taylor Farms a year. I forget another one, another year. And to get introduced to different company cultures and also different jobs, and also find out if you like a job or if you don't like a job. Totally good also. So I went to UC Davis for 4 years, and then I went to graduate school at Cornell University. I studied ag business at UC Davis, and at Cornell, I got a master's degree in ag economics. Quickly learned at Cornell that it was a lot of school for me, a little more school than I was able for, and there were some really smart kids there. And after 2 years of graduate school, I came and worked on our family farm and have been here ever since. Been here for about 20 years and love it. We're in the mountains just west of Gonzales. I actually live in Gonzales. My mother was a grammar school teacher in Gonzales for over 20 years, and I went to Gonzales Elementary School. So very proud to be a Gonzales kid and love our community there. So a little bit about my current job here. So I'm a farmer. It's a very all-encompassing job. I spend the majority of my days out in the field, which is part of being in agriculture that I love. So I'm not behind a desk all day long. And if you look around, it's gorgeous out here. You've got mountains, you've got springtime, you have grass growing, you have poppies growing, and I get to be out here watching our grapes grow and ensuring what they're doing. And what that entails is regularly monitoring our grapes, ensuring when different things need to be done to them. We grow high-end Pinot Noir grapes, so a lot of hand labor is required for these grapes. So I work regularly with our team. I speak Spanish fairly well. Very important for those kids of you that are bilingual, keep up your bilingual, emphasize more being bilingual. Those of you who are not Spanish speakers, I would highly encourage you to speak take Spanish. We're in California, and you look around, there's a lot of Spanish speakers. And to open up career possibilities to you guys, learn how to speak Spanish. Highly and don't limit yourself at one language. Go for another language too. I highly recommend that. And also just culturally as well. I mean, I've been to Mexico a couple of times. I've been to Costa Rica a couple of times. To be in Latin American cultures and actually be able to speak Spanish and be immersed in different cultures is really fun and cool, and gets a whole nother world experience for students as well. So my job on a regular basis, I spend time out in the vineyard. We also have vegetable crops, and I'm monitoring how the crops grow, working with our team, our foremen and our leaders, and figuring out where our team is going to be at different times of the day and different days. So I do scheduling like that. Also work with irrigators on our team, figuring out when crops need water, and keeping an eye out for what is coming down the road, and helping us stay on a schedule and stay on top of things. These fields look really nice and beautiful, and it's because we have a very dedicated team of guys and gals out here working constantly. We call it canopy management, and I'm going to give you guys I'm going to take this off this little screen and give you a crash course in viticulture. So viticulture is actually the study of like wine grapes and farming grapes. So this, if you look at this on the wine grapes, this is called a cordon. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that here. And these are little tiny shoots. These are little kind of berries. And Letty, I don't know if you can, that comes out on the phone there.
Yes, actually, I can see those little cones.
Okay. Yeah. So these little like tiny cones are going to become wine grapes, and we will harvest these in September. Wine grapes it's a very long-term time horizon. So we planted these grapes about 4 years ago, and it takes about 3 to 4 years from planting until we harvest these wine grapes. So you have to be very patient, and really have a long time frame, and hope you made good choices as far as planting the correct wine grapes out here. All this work that we do this by hand, where we remove shoots and we remove leaves, and we train these grapes to go up. And it's called, the type of training we do is called vertical shoot positioning, where we train all these shoots to go up, and then we'll have a row of beautiful grapes right here. So how did I learn how to do this stuff? I learned some of it in college, definitely. I learned more of it here on the ranch, working with our team members. And I also learned by visiting different vineyards and talking to different people. And I think that's an important part of your young career development, is when I talked about different internships, are gaining those real life world experiences. We are talking with other farmers, other companies, other industries, and visiting other places and seeing how people do it. When you're young, it's super cool to explore and discover these things and figure out what you like to be doing best. And me as a farmer, there's various agriculture jobs that I rely on regularly to help me do my job and do them well. I work with guy named Shane Calabro, who's a pest control advisor for us. So there's various PCAs in our industry. And what a PCA job is they come out and they help me identify various pests, and help me keep my plants safe so these pests and bugs don't attack them, basically. So that is a career in agriculture, in addition to being a farmer. In addition, for example, we recently planted a new vineyard, and there's a surveyor that we use as well. So the surveyor, which I think is a pretty cool job, and I paid this surveyor about $5,000, no joke. And this person came out for a half day one day and maybe a half day another day, and was out there and marked out various points in our field where we're going to put our rows and our field and our stakes. And then that was it. And I got a big bill, and I was like, man, that'd be kind of a cool job. The surveyor came out, marked various points in the field, went back, worked on the computer a little bit, gave me a really neat printout in a grid, got a great payment. And that's a career in agriculture that I never thought about, which, you guys is something to think about as well. We also work with irrigation consultants who help us design our irrigation infrastructure. And what I mean is that's like the pipes that run underneath the ground. So design how big, if the pipe needs to be, say, 2 inches thick or 4 inches wide, to control different flows of water that go through there, and how and where I run those pipes across our ranches. I look at nurseries that we regularly work with also as agriculture jobs. I mean, there's various jobs in agriculture that revolve around and that really support farming. And the explosion of technology in agriculture is a fantastic field also, I feel, for young students to look at as well. Where we use various agricultural technologies that Hasmin can talk about on our farms. And there's some really talented gals and guys that come out and help us use these technologies, conserve water, conserve fertilizer, and to grow better crops. I'm going to take a break there and see if anyone has any questions. If you have a question, please take yourself off mute and ask away. I'm a real farmer and I'd be happy to answer any question you got out there.
Well, I had a question. How long, has your family been farming? And I know you said you had veggies as well. If you can share a little bit more about that.
Yes, so our family has been farming for a while. Right after 1900s, we began farming dairy cows in the valley floor. And then around 1940s, right after World War II, we transitioned from dairy cows to vegetables, and we still continue to farm vegetables in the valley floor. And then in the early 1980s, we began growing wine grapes. And then in the late 1990s, we began doing wines as well. So I look at agriculture's evolution and continually changing, which I think is a great industry to be in as well. I mean, I had a professor at Davis that used to say, it's great to be a farmer. People always have to eat. So, if the economy is up or bad, they have to have food. And we're constantly providing food for people. And what we're providing may vary, but we in this area of California are blessed to have a fantastic place to live, and food grows really well here. So it's fairly easy to be a farmer in this part of California.
Mark, you mentioned the lifespan of the wine grape being, 3 to 4 years? We recently got a donation from one of the local vineyards, and I toured there. They mentioned that cork trees take substantially longer to develop the cork. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, great point. I mean, that's so we also make wine and we sell wine, and we bottle our corks with natural cork. So the cork that goes in it is actually the bark from a cork tree, and there's specific trees in Portugal and Spain that we use, and they harvest that bark, and those trees are 50 plus years old typically when they begin harvesting the cork bark from them. So they harvest the bark off it, peel it off this layer of bark, and they have to wait numerous years for that bark to regrow, and then they'll harvest it again. So yeah, I mean, it's just, the industries out there are really interesting as you begin to dive into different careers in agriculture and think about it. It's really truly amazing the number of opportunities that are out there for young students, and where you can find your place and even make your own place and make your own careers is truly amazing. And it's great to see where that technology goes.
Thank you.
Students, do you have any other questions? I'm curious on the pest side of things. What kind of bugs do you see in grapes? Yeah,
so fortunately, grapes do not have numerous bugs. So grapes are fairly light for pests. The main pests that we do have, there's one called mealybugs that we have, which are a bug that can transmit viruses from vine to vine, which are an issue. The other primary pests are called dust mites. I think they're classified as willamette mites. And you often will see those on the edges of roads where dust blows onto the vines, and the mites like to collect there. So there's some of the bigger pests that we have. Vineyards are very the amount of products we use to protect against pests is very minimal in vineyards, which is fantastic. And we practice something called IPM, which is called Integrated Pest Management. And it really takes a very broad view of controlling pests and adopting a variety of factors that Hasmin will be able to chime in more on with that.
Great, thank you, Mark. And one last one from me. I know students mentioned that they hope to someday travel with their jobs. And can you share maybe a little bit of the places you've traveled before?
Yes, so agriculture should be fantastic. I've been, when I was at Cornell, I took a group of students and we would go to Florida, and I was a chaperone, which is kind of fun. I took graduate students. We went to Florida to visit agriculture in Florida. We looked at corn farms there, which is really interesting as well. I've been to grape growing regions in Oregon and different parts of California also. I've been in a couple different cool places around the country, and I think agriculture, and as we look at the global food chain and global supply, is becoming more interconnected, and the ability to travel is really important. And students, if you're looking at a great place to visit, great opportunity to visit another country, a fantastic way is through your job. I have a friend that just graduated from Wyoming, and she wanted to be a veterinarian. That career did not track out for her, but she got signed up with a company that invented technology to help process meat and cut meat better. And now she is going to Germany regularly to learn about these super cool machines that, I don't know, cut up cows somehow. And now she's bringing that technology back here, and then she's visiting different meat processing places around the country. And I don't know, chopping up cows faster or something like that with machines from Germany. So it's interesting where careers unfold.
And if it's okay, Letty, I'd like to add to that, because agriculture has become very globalized. And in the previous job that I had, I worked as a food safety coordinator. And when you work oftentimes at the shipper level, they're buying fruit not just from farms in California, they're buying from farms in all parts of the United States, in Canada, in Mexico, and South America. And so often a lot of jobs at the shipper level do require some travel. I would go to, all of those countries, states all along the West Coast to do farm inspections. And that's, to add to Mark's point on the importance of being bilingual, knowing other languages, it really helps to have that background as well.
Thank you, Hasmin. Yeah. If there's no other questions, I think we can actually move on to your portion of the talk.
Okay, great. So hello, everybody. We are so excited to have this opportunity. I do want to say, I just got a warning that my earphones are low on battery, so I might have to switch here in the middle of the talk. So please have some patience with me. We're really excited to be doing this. The Farms Leadership Program is a great one. I really believe in the work of this organization and exposing all of you to the variety of job opportunities in this industry. So to start, my name is Hasmin. I'm the Compliance and Special Projects Manager here at Pisoni Farms. That's a long title to say that I'm involved in a variety of different type of work here. So anything that has to do with worker safety, HR, water quality, pesticides, fertilizers. I help out, with a variety of different tasks. One of the projects, though, that is near and dear to my heart and that I really enjoy is the work that we do around sustainability here at Pisoni Vineyards. And for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with what sustainable agriculture is, basically it's promoting farming practices that are good for the environment. They're good for people, so they're good for the workers here on the farm, they're good for the community and the surrounding areas, and it's also good for the actual business. So it's looking at those three aspects to make sure that these farms, these vineyards, this soil is going to be here for many future generations. It'll be just as productive, if not better. So our goal, and why we believe sustainability is so important, is because we really care about this land. We want to make sure that we're producing the best product that we can, and that we're taking care of this land for the future generations. So I've had the privilege of getting to work on some really exciting projects with Mark, one of which is what's here behind me. This is our Insectary Garden here at Pisoni Vineyards. And you may not have heard of an insectary garden before, but basically the concept is to plant a garden that is flowering year-round and will attract beneficial insects that we hope will help us in our pest management program. So when Mark mentioned integrated pest management, that's really a holistic approach to managing pests on a farm or in a vineyard, so that we're not just relying on chemicals. I know there's a lot of talk about pesticide usage on farms, and there are a lot of people who are against it. I see both sides. I do see why they help us feed the world. There's over 7 billion people on this planet, so I see the need, but I also see the need of using them responsibly. And so one way that we cut down on our usage of chemicals is by also trying to bring in this, what they call biological control. So biological control refers to using those other insects who we hope will go out and go after those bad pests that are in our vineyard and on our farm. This garden in particular is very special because we designed it in a way to really enhance what we already have here at the vineyard. This vineyard is in a very beautiful spot. A lot of the land on this ranch is undeveloped. And so we only used California native plants in this vineyard to really enhance what's already here. I'll quickly walk you around. Let's see if I can turn this screen around.
The view is gorgeous.
Yeah, look at that. Let me move this further down. So here we have Cleveland sage. This is loved by bumblebees, hummingbirds, honeybees, parasitic wasps. We also have, let's see what's close by. I hope I don't make you guys a little motion sickness with this. We have the monkey flower, which is also really beautiful. We have yarrow, which this one's really great for attracting, like parasitic wasps that will then go after those mealybugs. It's good for butterflies, pollinators. It's really creating beautiful habitat here at the vineyard. We planted this, I want to say around 3 years ago. And then here's some buckwheat as well. And our garden is just under 2 acres. And we took a piece of land that it used to be planted in grapes. The grapes did not do that great in this spot. So instead of forcing the grapes to grow somewhere where they were struggling, we decided to put in a garden instead. And it's been a really positive thing. So that's one example of a really fun sustainability project that I got to work on. We also incorporate cover crops in our farming practices, which helps with soil fertility. It helps with erosion control. We rely on technology, as Mark mentioned, to help make informed irrigation decisions so that we're not over applying water. And in grapes, the right amount of stress is what we're looking for to create that higher quality wine. So we're using technology. We encourage biodiversity by planting not just grapes, but we also have fruit orchards. So all of you should have received in your little gift bag oranges. Those oranges came from this vineyard. And that's, one part of our sustainable practices is not just to have a monoculture here on this ranch. We really want to have that diversity. So we have a small orange orchard. We have a new orchard that we planted with different fruit trees. We have an apiary with honeybees out here as well. We have a small little vegetable garden and just all sorts of things. We have owl boxes as well to encourage barn owls to be in this area and help us with our rodent control. So, sustainability really encompasses a lot of things. And there are a lot of jobs as well. If any of you are interested in responsible farming, there are a lot of job opportunities in this track. There are people who are farm advisors doing research to try to help us, be better farmers. There's ag tech and, anything from being the one who's coding the different programs to being the one who's helping farmers and their managers implement the technology in the field. There's policy work around sustainable agriculture as well, if you're more into like government politics type of stuff. So it's just a very exciting field. And then to give you, I did want to share a little bit about my own personal background, because Mark took what I would say is the ideal path, right, to get to where he is. He went to the right colleges. He studied things that are actual agricultural careers. And so that is, if you know that you want to work in agriculture, I would say that's the way to do it. For me, when I was in your students in your place in high school, I honestly wasn't sure what I wanted to do after graduating or as a career. I've always loved gardening and growing things and being outside, but back then I didn't quite know. And so I ended up going to a small liberal arts college. I studied international relations and Spanish literature, nothing to do with where I'm working now. But I want to share that because I think there's something to say about, if you're not sure, that's okay. No one's expecting you to have your mind up made right now. But what you can do is you can start exploring, and programs like this, it says a lot that you are part of this program. It shows that you're already thinking about it, that you're wanting to explore, you're wanting to meet people in the industry, you're wanting to learn about different careers. And there's really so much that you can do in agriculture that you may not even consider as being ag related. So definitely, it's okay to explore. I took some years to explore and try different jobs, and all of that led me here, despite not having gone to, one of the big name ag schools. So it's totally okay. You can be a little unconventional if you want to be. So that's a little bit of my background. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Hasmeen? Have you ever worked in permaculture as it relates to viticulture?
I have not. And I know that's, something that I keep hearing more about. It's become really popular with kind of the urban farm settings. And so it's not a field that I'm I don't have as much knowledge in. But it's something that we're definitely looking at. I know, like regenerative agriculture right now, there's a lot of research that's being done around that too. And so oftentimes Mark and we try to stay up on top of the latest research and what our local farm advisors are putting out, and what we hear about other people trying out. We'll do small trials here in the vineyard to see if it's something that works for us, and try to implement what we feel are the best practices for this, this particular location.
And I have one more question. So like if somebody's interested in like policy or business or tech or some of these other things that they're like sure that they're interested there and they're not sure about the ag part, would you say they should go like explore those other things and then ag is an option, or can they try to find some kind of overlap like ag business?
Yeah, I think that they can explore those knowing that ag is an option. Because when you know, at the end of the day, agriculture, right? It's an industry. There's multiple businesses in this field, and they need people who are in marketing. They need people who are graphic designers. They need people who, you know, have background in software development or whatever it may be, or they need, you know, people who, you know, I know some folks who they are totally into policy work and they follow local politics and all that. They end up getting hired by some of these larger ag companies to be the government relations person for their business, because laws and regulations are always changing, and you know, oftentimes these businesses also need somebody to stay on top of that, so we know what's coming and what we may need to start complying with. So there's, you know, I think it's totally okay if you're not 100% sure to explore other paths, knowing that this industry, you know, if you are a hard worker, if you're willing to learn, there's always going to be opportunities here. And we definitely, personally, I like to see students from this area coming back to work here as well. And there are a lot of job opportunities, not just working in the fields. I think one of the reasons why I initially shied away from this, my parents are both Mexican immigrants, and as a daughter of immigrant parents, you get a lot of pressure to, you have to be an attorney, you have to be a doctor, you know, kind of those bigger, what my parents think are good careers, but you know, they can share with family like, oh, yo tengo una hija que es abogada. And so there was always that pressure, but deep down I knew I loved working with plants and being outside. And so I think that part of that pressure is what got me off my path. But at the end of the day, if you know what you're passionate about, you'll find what's the best fit for you.
Thank you.
Of course.
And Irene, if you can just introduce yourself for students and for Hasmin and Mark. Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, I'm the Senior Development Officer here at Center for Land-Based Learning. So
Great.
kind of in that realm of like, I went the communications route and I've done some work in fundraising, and now I'm getting to learn about agriculture. And so there's an agroecology in that content. And so you can kind of learn how to learn, or how you like to communicate, how you like to engage in a process. Like if you like taking things apart and putting them back together, you know, consider that, you know, and then you can do that in any field or industry. So appreciate that framing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions, students? Hasmin, if you can just share, I know you mentioned like policy stuff. Aren't you kind of in charge of keeping track of upcoming policies and stuff like that?
Yes, yeah. So part of my title is that compliance piece, right? And so for farms and vineyards, there are a lot of regulations that we have to comply with. So anything from, you know, how much water we're pulling out of the aquifer to irrigate our land, we have to report on that. To how much fertilizer we're applying to our crops, we have to keep track of all of that and report on that. To what pesticides we're using, to things that impact our employees, you know, safety regulations as well. You know, last year, you know, yes, it was a pandemic, but then we also had the worst wildfire season. And so looking at how do we keep our employees safe as well. So there's a lot that needs to be done with compliance and making sure that we are following the rules, not just to keep our people safe, but to keep the land safe, to keep the water in our rivers, the water in our aquifers clean, for our current and future generations. And so that's why all those rules are created and in place. And then we as a farm business have to make sure that we're following them. And that's all part of also farming responsibly and sustainably. It's hard though, I'll tell you, my goodness, those rules change, I feel like year to year. even with food safety. I have my food safety audit this week, and we are just having to stay on top of things, updating things every year, it seems like now. So it's an interesting track, though, if you are interested in policy. So it's something that I highly recommend. And if anybody's interested in, I'd be happy to share more.
Great, thank you. Students, you've been very quiet. Are you sure you don't have questions? Samantha, Valeria, Desiree? No? Jasmine? Desi says it was well presented.
Thank you.
And that's Miss Dia Senor. She's actually the teacher from Greentown.
Great. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I can quickly review the handout that we included in the kit for each of you. So Mark and I, sat down to kind of brainstorm what we feel are the 5 most important things to keep in mind and to do when you're starting to consider what career path you'd like to follow, or try to figure out, what your interests are. So the first one, which I think is really important to start with, is just knowing your interests. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah, good. So just knowing your interests. Like I said earlier, I didn't know what I wanted to do after college. But deep down, what you're passionate about, what interests you, what are your hobbies, what are you good at? Start by just making a list of that. And I feel like once you have that identified, then you can, start branching out and talking to people, learning about the careers that they're in to see if it might be something that interests you or that might be a good fit. So that's definitely number 1, is to know your interests. And don't be shy about it. Don't feel like if you're getting pressure from parents or from teachers to go on a specific path, they're well-meaning, they're trying to help you out, but at the end of the day, it's your life. So, really be honest with yourself about what is it that you're passionate about it? What is it that gets you excited? And then second, this one, Mark is always encouraging students to do this. Network. That's probably the hardest. I'd say it was the hardest thing for me to do, because networking can be really uncomfortable, but it's good. Even at this stage in your life, you're just in high school, but it's good to start meeting people, even if it's informal. If you just meet up for coffee after, things with the pandemic improve, learn about what it is that they do, what a day in their job looks like. It's a really good way to just start finding out about all the different types of jobs that are in agriculture and if one of those might be good for you. And it can be as easy as starting out with your parents, maybe if they work for an agricultural company, maybe they can connect you with somebody there to talk to, or your teachers, or if you are in a volunteer group, if you're doing an internship, that's a good way to meet folks and start networking. And remember, as uncomfortable as it is to pick up the phone and call somebody that you don't know, people are really friendly and they want to help, and they love sharing about what it is that they do. I mean, Mark and I were so excited to get to be here with all of you this afternoon. So don't shy away from it. It's a positive thing.
And I'm going to build on what Hasmin's saying. Young women out there, I'd encourage you to be even bolder and braver, because what I've seen in my experience are young women are often a little shyer and more timid. And ladies, don't let those guys put up their hands and get the attention. Be sure to demand equal attention out there and get those opportunities, please.
I agree with that 100%. And then the third recommendation we have for all of you is to do job shadowing or informational interviews. So job shadowing is pretty self-explanatory. You call somebody up to see if you can follow them around for a day, and really you're just observing and taking the opportunity to ask them questions about their job. I think Mark's had some students job shadow him before. And I know I had one Hartnell student come out once and job shadow me as well. So it's a good way to just quickly get a sneak peek of what that type of career is. And then informational interviews. This is really good at any stage in your career. An informational interview is when you call up somebody who maybe their job interests you, but you're not asking them for a job. You're just asking to meet with them, to learn about their industry, to learn about what it is that they do. It can be 30 minutes, it can be an hour, but it's a good way to learn about that job. It's also a good way to network, because while that person might not be looking to hire somebody, they might know somebody else who is. And this is the informational interview is actually how I got my job here with Pisoni Farms. Was I called somebody who I admire in the industry, another woman who works in agriculture, and I just think she's a great person, and I think, you know, the work she does is really interesting and amazing. And so called her up one day, we chatted for a bit, and then I don't know if it was that evening or the next day, she said, "Hey, by the way, I know this farmer who's looking to hire somebody for this job in case you're interested." And here I am, and I love this job. I've been here 5 years now. So it's a definitely good opportunity to do that, even if you're in high school, and to continue doing it throughout your career until you find the right job for you. And then education. You're in school right now, right? You're learning, you're like, I have to read more books, but there are fun ways that you can educate yourself on agriculture, on ag careers, you know, articles. If you listen to podcasts, there's some, you know, podcasts that are specific to ag as well that you can listen to. YouTube, you can watch videos on different industries. You can subscribe to different blogs or email distributions. We really like the ones through the UC A&R because they're very educational, and they cover different topics about the different crops here in the Salinas Valley specifically, and they're interesting to read. And I think most of your schools have an ag education teacher as well, and those are great resources if you're wanting to expand your knowledge in agriculture. I don't know if Mark, you want to add anything to that?
Outstanding list, Hasmin. Extremely organized, and I'm very happy to be teamed up with Hasmin. And it's also a sign, you know, and a great example of a very talented person who got hired for one very specific job, and her job has really totally evolved, and I think evolved in the interest that she is interested in, and really helped us out immensely as a company. And it really was a large part of Hasmin following what she was interested in, I feel. It's really cool.
Yeah, so we come back to follow your passion, people. Don't be shy about it. And always feel free to reach out. You know, like I said, people are here, they want to help. They're eager to share about what it is that they do. And remember, nobody, not me, not Mark, none of us became successful all on our own. It really takes that networking, it takes learning from others, it takes allowing people to help you to reach your full potential. So please don't feel that you can't ask for help. Definitely reach out. You know, there are people who are eager to help you with your college applications, with practicing for an interview, or happy to write a letter of recommendation for you. And those are the kind of things that, you know, really takes that to get to where you want to go. So it's okay to ask for help. And that's where I want to leave it. I don't know if there are some questions. I think I saw some things pop up in the chat box, Lizzie.
Yeah, so Samantha did ask a question. Samantha, did you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Do you guys offer any types of internships?
So we don't have a formal internship program like some of the other companies have. We are a much smaller company. In the past, we did have one student from CSUMB one summer who did do a short internship with us, and that went really well. So, you know, I'll say we don't have a formal program. However, if students reach out and if we're looking for some extra help in the summer, it could potentially be an opportunity.
And also to build on what Hasmin says, we may not particularly offer something, but Hasmin is very connected in the industry, and she may be able to point you in the direction of a handful of other internships that may interest you. And that's part of this, like, connecting and networking, that we have a lot of connections of people looking to hire really talented kids like yourself, but you don't quite have those connections just yet. And it helps us to put you in contact with companies looking to hire really smart kids like you guys.
And I'll just throw in, we have a grant application, and it's not a reality yet, but we're looking as an organization to have an internship coordinator who both helps the businesses to build an internship program if they've never had one, to start something small in a way that's workable for the business, and also helps youth connect with those businesses. So we are aware of that need for that connection, and we're hoping to add that in the next year or so.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. And then also, students, I would like to encourage you, like, even though right now during COVID times, we can't necessarily go and meet in person with people, to set up Zoom meetings. I mean, I have plenty of time to do Zoom meetings. So, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of professionals that wouldn't mind taking 30 minutes out of their day. And if you present it in that way, like, hey, can I just have your ear for 30 minutes? I would like to learn more about your job and share a little bit about who you are as a student. I think that would be great. And in fact, if you need help with that, just reach out to me, and I can definitely help you draft an email or do a phone call.
And we included our business cards in the kit for all you students as well. So feel free to give us a call or send us an email if you ever have questions, or if you want us to connect you with maybe possibly somebody else. Don't feel like you can't reach out to us. We left those there so that hopefully you can use them. We do like to hear from all you students.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys being here and being able to see the ranch from our screens here. But we are coming towards the end of our time. Students, did you want to ask any more questions? Any teachers maybe too want to jump in?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious here. I don't know, maybe you can answer that. So I know the soil and the weather has to do with the
Oh, you're breaking up there a little bit, Mr. Solis. Do you mind repeating that one more time?
You guys hear me? Did you hear my question? My Zoom stuff is terrible. I'm sorry.
Do you mind repeating it?
Yeah, so like, what's the difference between like the soil and the weather here in San Luis Valley compared to, let's say, Napa Valley and their product? Does it make a difference? Are they all kind of the same thing? I mean, I'm very naive on those things.
I will jump in on that one, Hasmin, for you. So for wine grapes, it makes a world of a difference where grapes are grown. So our climate in the Salinas Valley is significantly different than Napa. So we're close to the ocean, so it's much cooler here than Napa. Napa gets quite a bit warmer. So different wine grapes grow in different climates. So there's wine grapes suited to our climate in the Salinas Valley. They're typically called cool climate grapes, such as Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, that grow in cooler climates. And Napa, as the warmer climate, is home to warmer climates, and they grow warmer varieties. A variety like Cabernet is very popular, and it grows better in warmer areas. So there was a researcher years ago that went out and identified the weather and the climate in these different areas and developed different grape growing regions and gave recommendations for what varieties should be grown in different areas. And that was a job someone came up with, and has been hugely So now you can look up different areas and you can find what the climate is in those areas, and that gives you guidance for what varieties you should plant.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, I was just curious.
Good question, buddy. Very good question. And the wines from these different areas taste very different, which is very interesting as well.
Does that have to do with the soil a little bit, the flavor?
So yeah, so like the soil, the weather, all that comes into play to affecting how wines taste from their regions. And you really, as you taste more wines and you taste them side by side, you can recognize the differences. And often I feel non-experienced or non-trained palates are sometimes the best at identifying differences because they recognize what smells different and what tastes different versus being kind of trained to know something.
Thank you. I know students, you can't drink any wine yet, so I know these are grown-up questions here.
And that is a whole nother career field called sensory science, where they evaluate different wine profiles. So that is a whole nother career track students can go on.
A friend of mine did that in coffee. And so if students look up there's a taste wheel, a taste and aroma, or a smell wheel for coffee. And so, yeah, in agriculture in general, the sensory science is amazing.
I actually did not know about that, so thank you.
And I remember working with students at UC Davis that were breeding different varieties of strawberry and tasting them for flavor. So these students were getting paid for their internship to taste and grade varieties of strawberries, which ones tasted the best. And I thought that was a fantastic job. And that was a super important job for the industry. I mean, trying to develop strawberry varieties that taste better. I mean, that's cool.
Really cool. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of science that goes into that too. All right. Any questions, students, coming up? All right. Well, hearing nobody. I want to say thank you so much for being here with us today and taking some time out of your days to teach a little bit about what you do and your passions. And I'm looking forward to the day where we can meet again in person and see everything up close and personal.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.